ACDP is calling on the Department of Basic Education to do away with comprehensive sexuality education at schools. The opposition party marched to the department's head office in Pretoria yesterday to demand that it be removed from the school curriculum. The ACDP has given the department until the 30th of August to respond to its memorandum, or it will stage protests. To discuss this further, we're now joined from our studios here by ACDP leader Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. Please be aware, though, that part of this interview may contain some graphic content. Good afternoon to you, Reverend. Thank you very much for joining us here on SABC's SABC.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here.
Well, as a start, why are you against comprehensive sexuality education at schools?
Firstly, we want our people to understand that we are not against sex education in schools.
Okay.
As you know, that life orientation classes have been taking place for years, which include teaching sex education. And you have never heard ACDP object or say anything against that, because the content of these life skills and sex education that is given to our people is age appropriate. But now with this comprehensive sexuality education, there are things that are taught there that are totally unacceptable, particularly because they are directed at primary school children. For us to hear that our schools, primary schools, who teach children that oral sex, anal sex, and masturbation are proper, they have sexual rights as children. It's a great concern, and obviously we do not agree with that. And we don't think that the majority of parents in South Africa would want their 9-year-olds to be given such information in schools.
Pardon me, what justification have you heard from the department in terms of why they have decided to introduce the comprehensive sexuality education at school? Because it could be a case of them moving with the times. I'm sure you would understand that what was taught to me and in your time too are completely different things. So I'm sure it is a case of them wanting to move with the times. What justification have you engaged the department on, and what have you heard?
Well, because they're signatories to the United Nations protocols. The UN has released these CSE programs to be implemented by countries that are signatories. So that's one part of the reason, because they're signatories, and that those programs out there, they also have to use them. But the interesting thing is that when we talk to them, they say no, they will not include what I'm talking about. Now, and our argument is, if they claim they will not include that, then it will no more be comprehensive. Okay, we are saying, if they want to teach our children and improve on the education levels that they have, they need to consider what is appropriate for children and what is not appropriate for children. And we argue that parents out there, I'm a parent, I have grandchildren, I wouldn't want my grandchildren to be taught such things because it is above them. You cannot teach children that they have sexual rights like parents. If you talk about moving with the times, I would agree with moving with the times while being considerate. It is not everything that is done by adults that should be done by children. If adults in their privacy would want to do this, they can do that. But do it alone and don't bring children into such promiscuity, because when children are taught that they must experiment, what do you expect? What do you expect? If now you read the basis on which, or the theory on which CSE is based, you will find a man by the name of Dr. Alfred Kinsey. I don't know how much time we have, but if you would give me time, I can read some things, some sentences that were written about Dr. Alfred Kinsey. And that's where we have a problem. If Dr. Kinsey had experiments using children, using even babies who are tied to beds, and saying children and babies enjoy sexual pleasure, that is nonsense. That is nonsense. I want to find parents who say to me, we agree with Dr. Kinsey, when babies have sex, or somebody have sex with babies, it's okay. Because Dr. Kinsey says, when babies cry, when somebody has sex with them, it's because of pleasure. I mean, there's no nonsense more than that.
Well, I'd like to focus more on what Reverend Meshoe has to say, not Dr. Kinsey. But at this point, I'd just like to ask you, in your memorandum, I know that you marched yesterday. What are you've touched on it very briefly, but what are the recommendations that you are then making to the department? Because if you're saying we don't want this, you're saying we want this. So what is that you do want instead?
One the important thing we said.
Yeah.
We said use what is local. What you have been teaching, continue teaching that. If you want to improve on that, then get the parents to give and make an input. We know that public hearings are often held in South Africa to take parents on board, to take interested parties on board. So one of the demands we made was that have public hearings and advertise them extensively, so that parents who are interested in the future of their children will also be able to attend and give their input. And if they do that, I promise you, the parents of South Africa will not agree with that, because we are ready to tell the parents and give them information that the department is not giving them.
Dr. Meshoe, we're having some very bizarre circumstances in our country that I'm sure you're very well aware of, where we're having young school learners getting pregnant at younger and younger ages as time goes on. So do you not believe that it is better to prevent a situation by, in fact, shedding a light on the situation rather than keeping it in the dark?
Okay. You are married, okay? I know when you started, you said people talk about graphic information, explicit information. This is information that will be given to children. And that is why I want even the parents to know about it. So as an adult yourself, if I ask you a direct question, I'm sure you are a parent, you have children, okay? How can oral sex, anal sex, prevent children from being pregnant? One of the things that ACDP promotes is abstinence. Our programs don't promote abstinence. South African children, many of them, when it comes to mathematics and science, they fare very badly. We are at the bottom. Why shouldn't we bring in more programs to empower our children, to teach them science and mathematics, so that they can become employable? Yesterday I had something very interesting. Yesterday, that in Buputatswana, mathematics was compulsory. That's a compulsory subject. That is why many children were leaving Soweto, parents who took their children to Buputatswana, because their education, without the discipline, besides discipline, was also focusing on teaching everybody mathematics. Once they knew they had the basics of mathematics, then they could take any area or avenue they want to take. But it was a compulsory subject. Having so many children and graduates, matriculants who are unemployable, why doesn't government, if it is concerned about high unemployment rate, say, let us improve on the education of our children, make them employable, teach them mathematics and science, so that when they finish matric, then they will be able to contribute positively to the economy. Sex is not going to help contribute to the economy. It's not going to make our children employable. So we are saying, let us be realistic and be concerned about the future for our children. What this material from CSE, from the United Nations, is going to make our children promiscuous, okay? And we don't want that to happen. If I may be allowed to read something that was also in our manifesto.
Let me just disturb you a little bit there before you go there. I mean, you spoke about the issue of abstinence, and the fact of the matter is that this is not really a reality for the most part in our schools.
But it must include it.
Now, whether it be urban or rural schools, the issue of abstinence is disappeared really. What do you believe is the sort of reason why we find ourselves where we are? I know, when I was in school, and I mean, I'm from a Catholic all-girls school, so of course abstinence was always I suppose taught to us that you should, wait and all of that. What do you think has sort of gone wrong, if I can put it that way, in our society, that we find ourselves having an issue where abstinence is no longer something that learners are really interested in, really?
All right. Personally, I think South Africans are obsessed with the issue of sex. Okay. You may not agree with me, but that's what I think. We talk too much about that. Now, there was a campaign that was promoted by the spokesperson of education to promote reading and bring semi-naked women. Why should you use semi-naked women to promote reading? Now, when children see people naked and we say together we are reading, are these children going to are they not going to want to do what they see?
We grew up watching The Bold and the Beautiful. There was kissing, there was lingerie, there was all of that always there.
But I'm saying you cannot promote reading by promoting nakedness. You can't do that. It's wrong. Okay? Now, listen to this and tell me if this will help children not to be pregnant. Okay? Touching and caressing your breasts is very pleasurable and can be sexually exciting. It is important that you learn how and when to obtain pleasure fondling your breasts. We want to know, and now we want to know, why young girls should be taught about fondling their breasts in school. In school. Why should they be taught that in school? This is part of what Kinsey taught, and we do not want that in our schools. Let the parents come together and say, we want to improve on the life orientation course if it's not enough.
Yeah.
Rather than import from the UN what Kinsey is teaching.
All right. So you've said that you are giving the department until the 30th of August to respond to your memorandum, or you will stage protests. Let me give you a two-pronged question here. If they don't respond with the answer that you're looking for, in what way will those protests take place? And what response are you looking for? Are you looking for the department to basically say to you, okay, that's it, we're scrapping this?
If the department believes local is lacquer, then let them stay with our life orientation, local is lacquer, and reject and throw out and dump and scrap what the UN is sending to us.
Yeah.
That's what we want. Okay? We want homemade remedy, homemade solution when it comes to that.
That homemade solution that you're talking about, the local as like, as I've said to you before, is not working. So something more needs to be done, and I suppose something more aggressive needs to be done to address the issue of HIV, AIDS, whether you're addressing pregnancy in schools, all of that. What we've had is no longer working, sir, and that's what I'm trying to say to you. So what then? What are those local remedies you're talking about?
What I will not agree with you about is for you to conclude that if you start teaching abstinence, that there will not be anybody who will listen to you. I will not agree with that. There will be children who will say, this is right, do this, focus on your studies.
Yeah.
Okay? One of the reasons, when we grew up, there were boys. Okay? I had to make a choice, and you have to make choices. Everybody has to make a choice. We are given good and evil. Okay, we have to choose.
Yeah.
So let the children be given the options to choose. Rather than say, no, bana, because of the times, they will not want to abstain. Why conclude that they will not want to abstain? There will be some among them that will agree that abstinence is the best way to go.
All right, Reverend Meshoe, great pleasure having you here in studio with me. Thank you very much for this discussion. And I can't wait to chat to you again after the 30th of August to see how far you are with your memorandum and your discussions with the department. And good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.